Correct. All right. I very much appreciate the discussions and the efforts that have been made by most of my students. Very impressive so far. Let's see if it translated to any measure of success. So, what did you get for number 1? What is the probability? 3 confident people right off the bat. 4 confident, 6 confident people. We'll start with Gloria, Joali, Valerie, and then Jed Lee.
1 out of 14,776,300.
Okay. What did you think, Joali? Which I think is the exact same thing you said. What do you think, Valerie? The same thing? That is correct. It is 1 out of 14,776,336. Now, unfortunately, if you just put 14,776,336 and you didn't put 1 over or 1 out of, then unfortunately you got it wrong. I'll explain why in a couple of minutes. Number 2, what's the volume of the air? We'll start with, you know what, Jed Lee, I apologize. I was supposed to call you before. Would you like to start this one? Okay, so Jed Lee, Isabella, Paige, and then Yadesh. Go ahead, Jed Lee. Okay.
8,138.
So that's pretty different. Paige, what do you think? So you agree with her. What do you think, Yadesh? Say it again. That is the correct answer. 8,138.88 feet cubed, or cubic feet. This was for my advanced students only. I'm going to try and do this when I can. I don't always have time or the ability to fit it in, but I put in an extension for my advanced students only. So was anyone able to do this question? Okay, Caesar, what did you end up with? Okay, you were also able to do it? Go ahead, what did you get? Okay, so that's different. Anyone else able to do it? Paige, what'd you get?
I got 1 out of 694,000.
Okay, so that's totally different. Isabella, you were also able to do it? Go ahead. Same thing is there. Anyone else over here? Yadesh, what'd you get? Okay, Joel? Okay, so I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people who did it. 5 of you got it either right or mostly right. So here is the answer. It's 1 out of 3,694,084. Now, Sebastian, who else said 4 out of? You said 4 out of 14 million? So you both did the right thing, but you didn't take the extra step of putting it in simplest form. Okay? So let me start with the extension. Or you know what? Actually, let me do number 1, and then we'll go over the extension, and then we'll go to number 2. So let's start with number 1. Give me a thumbs up if you got it right. Okay, good. Michaela, what did you do to get it right? Okay. Wow, that was a phenomenal explanation. So some of you might have a paper that looks like this, and she was 1,000% correct. that there are 62 possibilities for the first digit, 62 for the second, 62 for the third, and 62 for the fourth. When you multiply all those together, you get 14,776,336. So where does the 1 come from? Who was able to explain where the 1 comes from? Brianna?
Because it actually was a probability that we choose the password.
Okay. And so how many different ways are there to get this exact password? No, how many different ways are there to get this one? Oh, there's only one. There's only one way to get a 9, a lowercase t, a lowercase o, and a 5. There's only one way to get that exact combination, and that's where the 1 comes from. So the probability, and that's what you were asked for, is probability is 1 out of 14,776,336. Now, go to the extension. The extension actually wasn't that dramatic of an extension. The only difference between the two is that I introduced the possibility that not only could you get this one randomly, but what about this one, and this one? And so Sebastian and Yadesh and the other 3 students who got it right all recognized that now there was 4 different choices out of the 14 million. So they wrote 4 out of 14,776,336. But you had to take that extra step to put a fraction in simplest form. I personally knew that this number was divisible by 4 instantly. Could anyone else know that it was divisible by 4 instantly? Caesar, how do you know? Well, an even number means that it's divisible by 2.
The last 2 digits are divisible by 4.
That was it. Wow, excellent job, Caesar. First day of school. First day of school, the lesson I taught was divisibility rules. You're supposed to have committed them to memory. The rule for, you guys usually remember most of them, but the rule for 4 is a tricky one to remember. The rule is that if the last 2 digits, if you just look at that as a number, if it's divisible by 4, then the whole number is divisible by 4. So Caesar and I and a few others knew instantly that that was divisible by 4, and so was that, and so it was actually not hard to put that in simplest form. Okay? Comments or questions about 1 or the extension? Go ahead.
So, I got like the results right, but I don't know how to do it. I just put 14 million to 1. Same thing.
I guess I would accept it, but you got to be careful because it seems like you were trying to write it as odds, and odds would be a little bit different. So you can go ahead and mark it correct, but just be careful, okay? When you talk about probability, the favorable goes on top, and the total goes on the bottom. All right, now number 2. Let's take a look at number 2. Give me a thumbs up if you got number 2 correct. Okay, Kivan, did this question seem familiar to you?
Not at first.
Not at first? Okay. So what'd you do to get it correct?
Well, I did 12 squared. I got 144. Then I multiplied it by pi or 3.14.
Okay. Good. And what does that get you when you do that you just described?
Syria.
Well, you went a little too far.
The base.
Yeah, it gets you the area of the base. Does anyone remember what letter we used to describe the area of the base? Big B. So what he just was working on was the fact that volume is big B times the height. But in this case, big B is a circle. So he introduced pi r squared so that he could find the area of the base. Okay? And then what'd you do after that?
So I got 152.16.
Yep.
And then I multiplied it by the height, which is 3.
Very good. And so what was the total result?
13,564.
So that is the volume of the entire cylinder. But that's not what you were asked for. So this is a higher level question than that. That would be a low level question. Okay? Now you've actually seen this question before. The only difference is I changed this number, I changed this number, and I changed this one. But other than that, you've seen this exact same question before. Could someone remind us on how we changed the picture so that it was a more accurate picture? Does anyone remember what I did? Chris? Yeah. I drew in the water. Does anyone remember what the fraction was in the original question? Court? It wasn't 1/3, but it was close. Ezekiel? Yeah, it was 1/4. So what I did was I estimated 1/4. But this time it's 2/5, so now I'm going to estimate approximately 2/5 of the way up, and then I filled it in with water by drawing it in like this. So that's the water. Also, that's 2/5 of the volume right there. But that's still not what I asked for. I didn't ask for the volume of the water, I asked for the volume of the air. So where is the air? Where's the air? Gloria? Yeah, this is the air right here. What fraction would be the air? Chanel? 3/5. Very good. 3/5. So the entire volume is 13,564.8, but we don't need the whole thing, we just need this chunk of it. So you have to figure out how to find 3/5 of that. How did you take care of that, Kevon?
I divided it by 5, and then I multiplied it by 2, and then subtracted 2.
Subtracted it. So you took 2/5 of it and then subtracted from the total. Beautiful. Yadash, how did you do it?
Divide by 5 and multiply by 3.
Beautiful. Divide by 5, multiply by 3. Outstanding. Anyone do it differently? Anyone think of another way that you could do it right now? Caesar? You could use proportion, possibly. Yeah, Corey?
Divide 30 by 5.
You could do that way as well. Very good. Briante? Same thing? Good. Chris?
You can do that times 0.60.
Yeah. Convert this to a decimal and multiply it by 0.6. You're supposed to know, I've had this chart up since the beginning of the year. You're supposed to know 3/5 is the same thing as 0.6. So, if you take a number and multiply by the decimal form of a fraction, 13,564.8 times 0.6, 8,138.88. Anyone have any questions, comments, or concerns? Anyone have any issues? Caesar, go ahead. Okay, so, any other issues with the warm-up? All right, put the warm-up to the side. So again, we're going to follow, I'm still waiting for a few people to get there. We're going to follow the same procedure we followed last time. We're going to do sets of questions. The first set, you are doing your best, you're trying your best, you are trying to get them all correct. But if you get things wrong, that doesn't matter. The first set, your overall percent doesn't matter. But after that, it does. Okay? So, if everyone will turn in the packet until you see week 2. Count down week 2. But here's the most important part. At the bottom of the page, it must say day 6. Day 6. I had an instance of a student doing the wrong page. I do not want that to happen again. Please make sure you are looking at day 6. They all look very similar. You are going to have 10 minutes to do day 6. Does anyone have any questions on what your job is? Yes? Yep, that's why I wrote notes classwork and you're working right underneath it. In fact, I apologize if I didn't say this. Everyone needs to write day 6 on your paper, and then you're going to do day 6. All right? Here we go. 10 minutes on the clock. Good luck. All right. Your time for this set of questions is up. Pick up your colored pen. Pencil goes on the desk. Mark your answers honestly and fairly. Remember, the first set, how you do doesn't really matter, as long as you tried your best. Number 1 is 56. Number 2 is C. Number 3 is I. Number 4 is B. And number 5 is H. You already know the percent possibilities. It's either 0, 20, 40, 60, 80, or 100%. Write down your percent, but I'm not going to survey the class for this set. I will survey question by question. The idea over the course of the lesson is to maintain your grade or go up. That is your goal. The questions will get progressively harder as we go through the block. All right, now you're going to get 3 refreshers and a mini lesson. Although as I walked around, it seems like it might just be a refresher for some of you. So we'll start with question number 1. Surveying the class. Give me a thumbs up if you got number 1 correct. Very good. Put your thumbs down. Selena, what did you do to get it correct?
Because it said that there used 12 cups of something sweet. And so 3 times 4 is 12. So I multiplied 4 times 14.
Okay. How do you know you're allowed to do that?
Because this is 12, it would have been if you multiplied it by 4, it would be equal.
Okay. I understand what you're saying. Okay. Sebastian, what did you do to get it correct?
The original recipe named 3 times. So 3 times 4 would be 12, so I multiplied 14.
Okay. Same thing that she did. Okay, so I'm going to ask you the same follow-up question. How do you know you're allowed to do that? Okay. Okay, interesting. Anyone do it differently? Keon?
For this one, I used a proportion.
Okay, what was your proportion?
It was 3 over 14 equals to 12 over x.
And then
I calculated.
cross product, solve. Very good. What Selena and Sebastian and many other students did was they did a proportion, they just did it mentally. You recognize that that was times 4, And so you could multiply the bottom times 4, and that would get you the proper result. But again, I don't know if I've gotten an adequate answer. Why are we allowed to do that? Why is it a proportional situation? Corey? Okay, I think I understand what you're saying. Briante and then Gloria?
Because all you do is making it almost bigger back to it's not changing it's not changing the recipe.
Okay, very good, very good. Gloria? That's right. And so you take what he said, what she said, and that's the most important piece of all three of them, is that if you don't grow each ingredient at the same rate, then you're changing the recipe. So that's the key, is understanding that really this is the rate by which it's growing. Like she said, you're making a bigger batch. You have to increase each ingredient at that same rate. If anyone in here is a chef and you've tried it and actually messed up and incorrectly increased or decreased something, stuff tastes nasty. It just doesn't come out right. Okay? So you really have to pay attention. Good. Comments, questions about this one? All right. Number 2. Give me a thumbs up if you got number 2 correct. Okay, so now I'm starting to see a divide in the class. Michael, what did you do to get it correct? Oh, okay, so you kind of logicked your way through it. Interesting. Very good. Joali, how did you do it? Give me a thumbs up if you have this somewhere on your work. Good. Put your thumbs down. Danae, where did he get the negative 28? I don't see that anywhere in the question.
Because right there is supposed to be the new minus the original, and the new is 27 degrees, and the original is 55.
New minus original is what goes right there. Very good explanation, Danae, and excellent job, Joali. New is what happened most recently. Original is what happened at the beginning. New minus original comes out to negative 28. Cross product, and solve. Outstanding job. Your method also works. Very good. Anyone do it differently and have success? Go ahead, Court.
I thought it was original minus new, but I got 27 and get on to like 50.9 or something like that. So I didn't see.
Okay. Good. Very good. Now, the negative number actually didn't really matter because in the question it already said that it was going to be a decrease. That's all that this negative means, is that it's going to be a decrease. So since that was already kind of given away, you just had to deal with the numbers. So very good. Okay? Any comments, questions on number 2? All right, number 3 is another refresher, but we actually already did it with number 1. It's another proportional situation. Could someone tell us what makes it proportional? What makes number 3 proportional? A bunch of people know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people know. Valerie?
Okay, so it's not like they're changing the shape, so it's just the same shape.
Okay, it's just the same shape. Good. Very good. How do you know it's the same shape? Where does it say same shape? Ah, okay, so it says isosceles and then isosceles. So you're right, it is the same shape. Any other clues? Any other clues? Paige?
It says
Similar to. And the word similar means similar figures, and similar figures are?
same shape.
Same shape. Okay, and they are in proportion. So we're trying to find which set of measurements, F, G, H, or I, will actually form a proportion with this. So there was quite a few different approaches you could have taken, but you could have simply said 18 over 12 equals, and now tried out the different combinations. Put a 54 and a 24 and see if that works. Well, that one's times 2, that one is not, so that can't be it. So we know it's not F. Let's try 24 and 18. Let's see, so that's times 1.5, and that is times, that's not times 1.5, so that's not going to work. So it's not G. Let's try 12 and 9. Well, that's 75%, and that is not 75%. So that's not going to work either. So the only one that works is I. Did anyone have a different way of doing it? Anyone have a different way of doing it? Lord? Well, that's what I did. I was just doing it mentally. I was just doing it kind of quickly. But yeah, that's what I did. I agree with you. Very good. Corey?
I did 18 divided by 12, and then I divided the height by the base.
Very good. So if you take the 18 divide by 12, you will get a number. When you have something that forms a proportion, the other side of the proportion will also form the same number. So take the measurements and divide them. And the one that comes out to 1.5 will be the one that matches. Very good method. Anyone have yet another method? Jed Lee?
I went down to the choices, and whichever ones were lower, I would see if they were variable or the other number. If it was higher, then I would see if 12 and 18 were variable.
Okay. You're saying variables. I think you mean multiples.
Oh, yeah.
Multiples. Good. And that's exactly right. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. Beautiful job. Okay? Very good. Any comments, questions? Good. So now I'm going to skip over number 4 for now. We're going to go to number 5. So now let's see how we did on this. Give me a thumbs up if you got number 5 correct. Okay, so again, this is what I, put your thumbs down, this is what I expected, because we never learned stem and leaf plot. There's a couple of possibilities for my students who got it right. If you went to FCAT Saturday, then you were introduced to stem and leaf plot, or if you were introduced to it at another school, or last year maybe a different teacher introduced it. So this actually is a low-level question. It requires no thought whatsoever. You just have to know how to read a stem and leaf plot. So I'm going to briefly explain it. It's quite easy. It gives you a key here, but the key doesn't explain what to do when you have this situation. So here's what it is. A leaf, each number in the leaf column is just a digit. And you take that digit and put it with the stem and form a number from it. So for example, this right here is a 69. So that represents that number. This 7 and an 8 represents a 78. So that's not hard. And here is an 89. Here's where you have to know how to read it. This is not 917. This represents two different scores. This is a 91 and a 97. Each leaf is separate. The stem tells you the first digit, The leaf tells you the last digit that goes with it. So that's a 91 and a 97. This is a 100. Now for period 2, we have a 67, a 75. Could someone explain what this line is? Chanel? Very good. That is an 80 and an 83. Could someone else explain what this line is? Chris? That is a 95 and a 97. Now read the question. How many students in both classes had test scores between 70 and 98? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Any questions? Comments, concerns? So, as I've said several times, the score on this first set doesn't matter. Now it does matter. Everyone write day 7, and everyone turn the page so that you are looking at day 7. Do not do any other day, must be day 7. I am also going to reduce the amount of time that you have to 7 minutes. 7 minutes for 5 questions. That is done on purpose as well. Are there any comments or questions before we begin? Corey? Yes, yes. Okay, go ahead and begin. All right, this one counts. Colored pens up, pencils down. Number 1 is 4.5. Number 2 is B. Number 3 is G. Number 4 is D. Number 5 is G. Write down your percent. I'll get to questions in a second. Write down your percent. And this time I am going to survey the class to see how we're doing. Give me a thumbs up if you got 80% or better. Thumbs up or 80% or better. Put your thumbs down. Very good. Comments, questions, and concerns. We'll start with Isabella, Corey, Briante. Go ahead. That's the same thing. 4.5, 4.5, same thing. Corey? Same question, Briante, and then Gary. Same thing, Gary.
I don't understand before.
Okay, and there's a number of people who also do not understand number 4. I skipped over it before because of time. This time I will go over it. Okay? Are there questions on any of the other ones besides 4? Go ahead. Number 2. Very good. So, What did you put? Okay, look at B and look at A. They're incredibly close to each other, right? It's a rounding issue. And you're not the only one. There's quite a few people who put A. If you put A, it's because you didn't round properly. It means you did the whole thing right. You just have to watch your rounding, okay? So let's take a look at number 4. Now, it's a multiple choice question. We should be able to eliminate 2 of the possibilities right off the bat. Someone eliminate 2 possibilities for us. Good, we got lots of people who can eliminate. Michaela? You can eliminate A and B, how come? And what are we supposed to do? Okay, so everybody in the room, and there was a lot of you who had your hands raised, you knew that you were supposed to add 7 to both sides. Very good. So it's 1/4 x minus 7 equals 26. We add 7 to both sides. That will get rid of that. What is it called when we do that? That's minus 7 plus 7. What's that called? Ezekiel? Canceling out, but there's fancy words for it. Caesar?
Inverse operation.
That is exactly right. You're doing inverse operations. So, everything you do to solve an equation is an inverse. If you multiply, you divide. If it's addition, you subtract. If it's subtraction, you divide. You add. Sorry, I lost my thought for a second. But now look at what we have. 1/4 x equals 33. Well, what's the inverse of that? What is the inverse of that? Chanel? What is it? Yeah, it's 4. Does anyone know the fancy word that describes how to get 4? There's a big fancy word that describes this. Danae? Well, that's actually that's related to it. You're right. What's the flip called? She's right. The flip is what she's talking about. Not a ratio, but it is an R word. Anyone know an R word?
Wait.
That's a good word, not the one we were looking for. It is called the...
Reverse?
Gloria?
Radical?
It's a good word, but that's not it.
Yes!
Oh, that was
I told you!
It is called the reciprocal.
Oh, I heard that word.
When Ms. Cooper taught you keep, change, flip, what she was saying was keep, change, and then use the reciprocal. We're doing the same thing here, but watch. The reciprocal of a fraction means you flip it. So it becomes 4/1. But we don't need the 1. Every number has a 1 underneath it. We don't need the 1 in this case. Look at the one that was in the first set. Let me rewind to the first set of questions so you can see this one. The correct answer was D. Look at the reciprocal. The original fraction is 2/3. The reciprocal is 3/2. You flip it. So to get rid of a fraction, you multiply by its reciprocal. That's what's happening. Okay? You did not learn that at the beginning of the year. We skipped over that one concept. All right? Any comments, questions about that? Go ahead, Isabella.
So instead of doing inverse operation,
You are doing inverse operation. It just doesn't seem like it. This is really what we're doing here is we're multiplying by 1 and dividing by 4. So we're actually doing 2 operations. That's what's really happening. Multiply by 1, divide by 4. So now I'm going to multiply by 4 and then divide by 1. So I am doing inverse operations, but we just call it reciprocal. Okay? So, are there any other comments or questions on this set? Go ahead.
I have a question for number
For which one?
1.
Okay.
I got the thing.
Okay. What did you do to try and get it right?
Because like I had took the chocolate chips and then I put it into the decimal to be 25.
Good.
And then for the chocolates I put 75
For the what?
chocolate.
Oh, yeah. You put what?
75.
It's not 75.
0.75.
0.75.
And then
Did you put 0.75 or did you write 75?
I'll put 75.
Okay. So go ahead, keep going.
And then I think I divided it by 2 and I got 6.
Well, it's really, we're doing a proportion. So this is the ratio of the ingredients in the original recipe. So this is original recipe. This is the new recipe. In the new recipe, we're going to use 21 cups of chocolate chips. How many of these do we need to match it? Okay, that's what's going on. This is chocolate chips, and this is the chopped nuts. That has to be going across and going across. Okay? Good. All right. Last chance to improve. Everyone turn the page one last time. Make sure you are looking at day 8. Make sure you are looking at day 8. Keep this in mind. The level of the questions is going up a little bit, so it's going to take you a tiny bit longer for this set. Still 5 questions. This time you're going to have 6 minutes. Any questions on your job? Go ahead and begin. All right, time is up. Colored pens up. Number 1, 15. 2 is C. 3 is I. 4 is B. And number 5 is I. All right. So, this one counted as well. Give me a thumbs up if you got 80% or better. Put your thumbs down. Very good. Are there any questions on any of these? Comments, questions, or concerns of any kind? Excuse me? Okay. So, no comments, questions? So, draw a line across your paper. Your homework is Countdown Week 2, Day 9. And in the workbook, you are doing A13 to A14. And you are going to have a quiz on Tuesday. What happened, but computer's having trouble all of a sudden, but you have a quiz on Tuesday.